All right, we're back for another episode of Lifestyle Self-Made, which is funny because this is the third episode in the third week of series 2. And it's funny because I'm being consistent so far. And the topic today is how to avoid the consistency trap. And I think we get into these ideas of things that we need to be consistent on when, if we really want it to be fulfilling and to help us achieve our goals, we need diligence over consistency any day. So funny, right? All right. So if you're has not listened to us before, this is Lifestyle Self-Made, where we talk about anything that helps you live the life that you would like to live on your terms, but also that accepts the realities that we live in our life. Like when people think lifestyle self-made, we're not talking about any bougie stuff, and it can be if that's what you really want and that's the life that you want to lead. Absolutely. But we're talking about being real about our responsibilities and things that we have to do in our lives and the things we're not willing to do to get these super perfect, ideal lives, because there is no perfect. And people always talk about, I'm not achieving my full potential. I'm like, the full potential is bullshit, because anytime you focus on one thing or improving yourself in an area, you are putting other things on the back burner. And life is about balancing all that stuff. So the topic today is consistency. I also have some feedback and questions because it is the Dear Alice series, and I'm really happy to hear from you guys. And I want you to keep sending questions, rants, just feedback, whatever you would like, because I really want to share that stuff. I really want this to be a really useful resource for it to feel like home, for you to feel like you have someone who understands you, even if we're not going through the exact same thing. So we'll do that in a bit. But today, let's talk about consistency versus diligence. And I think consistency is a trap for people because it's something that people think, okay, in order to do something well, I need to do it consistently. You end up going through the motion, keep doing things that you think you're supposed to do. And it has value. It absolutely has value. I like talk about different areas of our lives where maybe we're trying to build habits or certain goals. That obviously consistency has a role, but if you get stuck in consistency mode, you are not going to get to where you really want to be. Because diligence is more about doing the things that are going to help you achieve your goals and being consistent on them, but being really clear on what those goals are. Consistency can leave you in a trap of where you're not really conscious of what it is you're doing and where you want to go to. And I think there's a lot of places in our life where this happens in terms of personal growth. A lot of people like consume so much content, right? Reading books, which is great, consuming podcasts and stuff. Obviously, you should listen to this one because you should. But seriously, getting in this thing where I'm like, okay, I'm trying to learn to be a better person, so I'm going to consume all this content. And then you don't even leave room for your own thoughts. And also to start implementing it and thinking, how am I going to do this? And embodying it in your own life. You're just listening. And obviously, just listening does rub off on you some ways. But I see people who think they have to read a certain number of books a month, or they listen to podcasts, or they're like, I like to multitask whenever I go on a walk. I always listen to my favorite stuff. It's what about paying attention to your surroundings and listening to nature and giving time for you? Because you're filling your head with other people's thoughts. What about your own? That is where we really grow. Or when we have time, not just to think about things, but to plan and stuff like that. You don't have to listen to a number of books or read a number of books, whichever format you love. I love listening to books, but I do find if I've listened to too much stuff, I do start to feel overwhelmed. I think my anxiety goes higher, right? I need that time. Or just listen to music, because music it makes me sing, it makes me dance. I can do fun dances to entertain my dog. And it's a lighter time. And then of course, sometimes lyrics make you think and stuff too. And sometimes we just need, which sometimes is hard to have. I think in this day and age too, where we are used to a lot of stimulation, letting it all go and just not listening to anything, not watching anything is very challenging. And the more you can do it, I think the better it is for you. I think about also in business. I know a lot of our audience owns businesses, and I think the greatest example of where people get in the consistency trap is social media. You think you have to post every day on these platforms and you have to be on all the platforms, or you pick the ones you want and you have to be there. And then you feel bad if you don't do it and you have to, like, it's this big thing. But instead, you should be thinking about what you're trying to accomplish, what your business wants to do. Stop worrying about letting algorithms decide how you should post, because they're going to change their mind about you anyways. And in many cases, you might be posting consistently and not getting the results from that. You keep going because you think, okay, I have to do it consistently so that eventually it can grow. You have to be diligent more than consistent. Post when you have something really valuable to do. And yeah, build in that consistency within that diligence. But figure out who you want to reach. Where are they? You don't have to be on every platform. Pick the ones and really focus on that and learn from it and then expand from there. We do it in our relationships too, parenting and stuff like that, where we're trying to be present, we're doing stuff together, or we're in the same room, but we're not really engaging ourselves. The phone is there, etc. So you could say, oh, I'm a great parent. I have dinner with my kids every day. But if people at the table are staring at their phones, then maybe you're not really doing that. And I'm not here to criticize any of that, because I think also you can't demand togetherness from your family. Your children have to want to be present with you. So you have to think of ways to engage them better, where they are going to want to put that phone down. You can be the commander. And obviously, if your kids are young, then you will be. You're like, you can't have that here. But even just because the phones aren't there doesn't mean you're really all present together. In health and fitness, I think it's the same. Like, we can go into different modes where you think you have to go to the gym. I actually see that a lot. And a lot of people who are very overachieving type people who get like, they have to go to the gym, they have to do this so many times a week. And it's a routine that they feel guilty if they don't do it, but it's not always that they want to do. I've talked about how I do yoga every day, and I do it because it really is a great start to my day. There's so much benefit to it. And on days when I don't feel like it, I do remind myself, like, okay, you're going to feel a lot better. My hips might be sore, joints might be sore, or just to get the clarity and to slow down before I get into busy mode, right, with the day. But there is a purpose to that. So I'm very present. And the more present I am during the yoga session, the better it turns out. If, you're thinking, I got to go to the gym 3 days a week, whatever, and you just get on the treadmill and you're not really into what you're doing, then you're not going to get the benefits from it, the mental or physical benefit. Just a small example there. And it can also relate to food and everything else that we do to keep ourselves healthy. I think, like, even in our household, we all have chores we have to do every day. But the more we take pride in them and try to really see what the result of it is. So I have this routine that I do every day of just basic household tasks. So the house is in order and I can get started with the day, and it can get messy throughout the day, and that's totally cool. But like, I take pride in what is being done, and I see how it affects and how it makes everything else easier later, like having a clean kitchen in the morning, and then when it's time to cook later, that everything's ready. Or sometimes it's not currently in my routine, and my routine changes as whatever is happening in life. I will change. Sometimes I do a lot of food prep in the morning. It's been a while since I've done that, since there's only 2 of us in the household full time now. A little more, that's not as important. But I used to do that, get everything ready so that when I'm done working and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm too tired, that it's ready. So what does that have to do with consistency and diligence? Consistency it would be like, okay, I know I have to cook every day. I have to clean this. I have to do the dishes. And it's just getting it done. But diligence is more like thinking about how this all works together. What is the best way to do it? And also being able to see in that, when you see what the best way to do it is, you also can see where you can take breaks more easily. So I'm not trying to say you got to become this machine and everything's going to work together in a certain way. Not at all. But the more you're aware of why this works well this way, the more you can see where you can slack off. And obviously, if you just need a break and you need to let all hell break loose elsewhere, you got to do that too. And then the spiritual side too, whether you're praying or meditating, if you're doing it because you have to, but not really the underlying reason of why and what it does for you, and focusing your method or approach based on that, then you're kind of going through the motions. There isn't really that depth, and you're not going to see the growth from it. And I just want to end that part too. Like when I'm talking about growth, I also think it's kind of cliche and weird to say, I'll be the best version of myself, which is our thing about achieving my full potential. It's not that. It's just being conscious of who you are, how you feel, like being in tune with your body and being in tune with your mind, so that you can have wonderful days, that you can take care of the people that you want to take care of and not do the things you don't want to do, etc. Right? It's just about just really having a good understanding, not becoming a machine that can do all the things. But then when you have to be a machine, you're more prepared to be it, because sometimes there are those times when we have to do more than maybe we would like to. So I think overall, we do learn through consistency. And I don't think I mentioned it too, like when developing my yoga practice, I was just focused on consistency, just doing 10 minutes a day, whether I wanted to or whether I didn't want to. But like you have to go through that hurdle to start. And same even in your business when I said social media. But just letting it run and continue and just keep doing the same thing without really seeing the results, or is it worth your time? Even if you do see some results, maybe there are other places where your time would be better spent. Just keep it in mind. Diligence. Diligence is what's going to get you to where you want to be. So I did also want to share some feedback and a couple questions that I've received, and let's just dig into those, kind of touch on our previous episodes, which you can find on our website or wherever you're listening to the podcasts. We've done a couple other episodes that I think you will like. So I wanted to share what Lynn said from the last episode about taking on more roles and responsibilities than we should. And she said, "Ooh, I've learned this one the last few years so good. I've learned how to say no kindly, and how to present my boundaries in a way that works, and how to prioritize rest as a task." Beautiful. Like, and saying no is a good thing. And you can't be everywhere at once. When you're firm in what you say, people believe that. If you're wishy-washy and you get angry, or you're apologetic and stuff when you say no, you can apologize. But if your knee-jerk reaction is people pleasing, then you have to be really careful about how you do that. And I love this, how to present my boundaries in a way that works for you, because we're all different and we will all things in certain ways, but the boundaries are super important. And how to prioritize rest as a task. Absolutely. Be diligent in pursuing rest, right? Consistency is also good, because the routine and going to bed at the same time, getting up at about the same time, that's good for you too. Being diligent about shaping your day so that you can go to bed at that same time, and that you're ready to wind down and stuff like that, that you're caring for yourself, that you can rest when it's time to rest. Nobody does that perfectly, but it should be a part of what you are focused on. Janet said this about caregiving. Thank you for sharing the beautiful story about your dad and the chocolates. Yeah. Caring for my mother is sometimes overwhelming, and I often have a lot of guilt about my negative feelings. But there are so many rewarding moments like what you shared. So thank you. Yeah, I hear you too. I'm caregiving for my old dog. I tell you, she is so needy. I cannot leave her long. She's blind, so if she goes to the bathroom, she often steps in it. So if you leave her alone for a while, and she'll be stressed out too. She's got super big separation anxiety. So she paces also more when she's alone. Yeah, so this pacing around, moving messes around can be quite terrible. I do feel negative feelings about that too. And the interruption of sleep. Biscuit likes to get up at 4:30, but I've actually changed my whole routine. And thank goodness I can. If I had to go to a 9 to 5 job, then oh my gosh, I think I'd be a mess, right? Because I can get up at 5 now. I go to bed at about 9, and people always laugh at me. I'm like, I'm from bed. He texted me at 9:30. Are you crazy? I don't see that until the next day. But most people just know that. They can text me, the phone is off. I will answer them tomorrow in the morning, and probably really early in the morning. So hopefully they have their ringer off and they won't be disturbed when I text them at 5:30 a.m. So yeah, like we have to look at those rewarding moments, but also the adjustments that we make. Like we can make them work within our lives so that we do feel that guilt or resentment a lot less. So it's the resentment's the real feeling here, and then feeling guilty about being resentful. But it will creep up. And it just means that you probably need to center yourself and figure out like what is going on? How can I adjust things? And taking those times to remember those really rewarding moments, those really, really sweet things. I love my morning hugs with Biscuit. She's hungry, she wants to eat, and she's like bumping me with her nose. This is what she does. But I say we need hugs. And she lets me hug her for a while, and then I make her breakfast. And we have Teresa on saying no. So I feel guilty saying no when people need me. Work, I'm the one who takes on extra tasks. In my family, I'm the one who smooths things over, but it's exhausting. How do you set boundaries without feeling selfish? That's a deep thing. I think there might be more than I can say in a short time like this, because there's a lot of reasons you're doing that. And I think you need to dig into that, how you grew up, how you approach things, how you think of things. But really, at the heart of it is that you are putting other people over yourself. And you can't do that because you see that, right? It's exhausting. You're not effective. So you're not just hurting yourself, you're probably hurting people that you love as well in this process, overdoing too much stuff at work. And in the family too, maybe, that if it's your extended family and you're doing stuff for them, then maybe your household is suffering, or they're suffering from your mood because you're stressed out and you're freaking out. But yeah, you just have to learn, practice saying no. Start doing it little bits at a time and see how good it feels. And thinking like, whenever you're saying yes to anything, how is this going to line up with everything? I think I'm blessed in my life. I've always been able to say no, but I also still take on a lot of stuff because I'm capable of doing it. And then through that process, everybody else says, Mom does it. She does it. So let's just let her do it. Right. And it's that control freaky thing too, which is funny, right? That we think that we're so selfless. But a lot of times when we do too much stuff, we're actually being selfish because we think that we know how to do it best. Probably a lot of the times we're right. It's true. Like I said last time, people can't step up if we don't let. So I hope that gives you some thoughts on where to start chipping away and changing those patterns. All right, we have an anonymous submission about work-life balance. I feel like I'm constantly failing at both ends. If I focus on my business, I let people in my personal life down. If I focus on family, I feel like my business is falling apart. How do you know where to put your energy where when everything feels important. Yeah. So I think maybe this diligence conversation sort of played into that a little bit because you do have to figure out. And if you didn't grab that little kit that I provided you guys last week, it's free. It will help you balance your priorities. I called it the Balancing the World on My Shoulders kit. And it's going to help you set these priorities, your overall priorities. Look at the things you're doing in your day and figuring out what is important, what's not, and really balancing that out. But also that, yeah, like that these things are important, so you have to make time for them. I can get into these modes too. And I always feel like trash when I do it. I love working. I really do. I love my business. I love helping people grow their businesses. I love having chats like this. Like, I love my work. I love creating content. And I can really get super into it and let that take over. So instead of getting up and doing my little routine of chores and then my yoga, almost never let myself skip that anymore. Because I know when I do, I'm going to feel off. It's not, and then I'm going to have so much stuff to do later and I'm going to be tired. Or even when I do the morning routine and then I get into work and then I work too late, I know that I'm going to be stressed out about getting dinner figured out. I'm going to be wired, really wired when it's time to wind down and sleep. I know that I really should not work past 4 o'clock. And even that's a bit late. What I'm saying is I have to cut it off. And you have to cut it off too. And things aren't going to fall apart. If you're in those modes all the time that things are going to fall apart in your work and you have to answer these emails and you have to do this, then you got to readjust that part. Something's wrong there. That's not working right. You need to figure out how to make that work better. Obviously, there's going to be times like I had yesterday. We're dealing with Norton was blocking one of our pages saying it had malicious content and it doesn't. And then the whole website went down and I had to move pages. I had so much to do. And that made me work longer. But that's not the daily routine, right? So then you deal with those things as you can. The daily routine has to make sure that I can do my work in a reasonable amount of time. It's not going to take over, that I can be present when I need to be present. And that takes work in being able to do it naturally. You have to be conscious of it. And that's why I download that free kit from last week. I will put a link to it so that you have it. And I think it'll help. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. And please, I would love to hear from you. Give us a subscribe wherever you're listening. We are on all the major platforms, and including YouTube. And of course, submit your stuff to Dear Alice. Put a link to that in there too. I want to hear from you. Obviously, you can just leave it in the comments too, but if you'd like to submit a question or a rant with your name or anonymously is totally cool. Let's create our lifestyles totally self-made, right for you, not what anybody else. I just really love hearing from you and figuring out how I can help create this content, because maybe this is one more thought I can leave for you, is that I love doing this, not just because it helps people. So, there's that people pleasing thing where you could get in this trap where I'm going to do this. I want to help people. I'm going to keep helping and it's going to wear you down. I get so much out of these conversations and I cannot tell you how much just putting my focus back into this has helped me in a lot of different ways where I felt a little unclear and maybe a little down and stuff, that this brings me benefit. This helps me as much as I hope it helps you as well. So until next time, I appreciate you very much.